If you want to feel more calm, confident, and connected in your life, the Love Your Real Life membership is for you. Members love the simple daily challenges that help create small, consistent actions that lead to the change that they want. And then the live sessions that are throughout the month that leave them feeling grounded, relaxed, and supported. There's a link in the show notes to join. I would love to see you inside of this membership. Welcome to the Love Your Real Life podcast. I'm Faith Lauterbach, and this is a space to help you heal, rebuild, and create a life you truly love, even if it looks different than you imagined. Each week, I'll be sharing tools, encouragement, and real conversations about what it means to move forward after betrayal, heartbreak, or simply life not going as planned. I am honored to walk alongside you and help you love your real life. Well, hello and welcome back to the show. I'm so happy that you've taken a moment to listen in today. Last week's episode was an interview that I'm still just kind of glowing about. If you haven't had a chance to listen yet, head on over there after you listen to this one. I interviewed in it Monica Packer, who is somebody who I have admired their work for a long time. And it was such a great conversation. So if you haven't listened yet, pop on over there after you listen to today's episode. And before we get started into our topic today, I just wanted to do a little check-in. Let's pretend like we're sitting, at the coffee shop, having a cup of coffee together and just kind of catching up. This means I would love for you to reach out to me and share some things about yourself and what you have going on too. The first thing I want to share is I just got done reading a book last night that seriously, I can't even put into words how much I loved it, how good it was, how heartbreaking it is, how just like, I don't even know the right words yet. But one of those books that has been, kind of talked about a lot. And I've been on hold in the library on Libby for a very long time. And I finally got it. So it's The Correspondent by Virginia Evans. And it is so good. Have you read it? If you haven't, I recommend it. And if you are a reader, um, I have a podcast that I have been listening to for a while called the Currently Reading Podcast, and I absolutely love it. Meredith and Katie are the hosts, and each week they talk about what they're currently reading and lots of other things. It really feels like sitting down and talking with your friend. So if you like books, like reading, and like podcasts, which I'm guessing you at least like podcasts since you're here, put this one on your to check out list. It is delightful. I am one of they have like a membership, and I joined that, a few months ago. And with that comes this spreadsheet that you can use as your reading tracker for the year. And it's extensive. It is comprehensive. And for some people, it might be too much. It's definitely not for everybody. But for me, I love it. It is so much fun for me to enter my books as I'm reading them and to be able to track them in this very comprehensive way, like down to, where the book is set in. I can't even think of all the things, but it has a lot of like detail and this really cool way to like look at your stats as the year goes on and at the end of the year. So if you are looking for a fun way to just kind of, I don't know, enhance your reading, check out the podcast and, look into their little club called Being a Bookish Friend. And you get the indie press list, which is a curated list of books that are sold by the indie of the month. Uh, you get some additional podcast episodes and then this and also access to a Facebook group and then this lovely spreadsheet. So, anyways, just wanted to share that with you in case that sounds like something you might like. Definitely check it out. Okay, so let's get into what we're going to talk about today. I love this topic. I feel like this is such a great thing to look at. I really like examining why we do the things we do and what it means and how we can use those things to improve our life. I think sometimes we have things come up or there's things going on in our life and it's just like, I wish it wasn't this way. There's so many of those times that if we examine those things and look a little deeper, we can use those things to grow, to learn, and to get us closer to what we want. I'm not one of those people that thinks everything happens for a reason. There's some things that I think there's no reason behind. But I do think that a lot of times we can make reason or we can make things meaningful even when they're hard. And so today's episode is how to let resentment be your friend. So this is going to be season 2, episode 31. And so first of all, this is something that most of us don't love to admit that we experience, which is resentment. But I think that's a very, very natural human emotion and experience. But it makes us feel uncomfortable, right? Ashamed, maybe even guilty, and maybe defensive. Feeling resentful can make us feel defensive. We don't think we should feel resentful. We think something is wrong with us or something is wrong with other people. We think maybe if we were more grateful or more patient, more loving, um, we wouldn't feel resentment at all. But I'm going to give you an idea here. What if resentment isn't the enemy? What if it's not a problem at all? What if resentment is actually one of the most valuable emotions that we can experience as humans? What if resentment isn't showing up to hurt us, to cause us pain, to make us feel horrible? But what if it's showing up to teach us something, to show us a new way, to tell us that there's something more here? All right. Have you ever noticed yourself feeling irritated by somebody that you really love? Maybe it's your spouse who didn't notice that all the things that you've done around the house, that you've cleaned the bathrooms or the kitchen or done the dishes or the laundry. He didn't notice it. It's kind of irritating, right? Maybe it's your kids asking you for one more thing when you've already given so much. You already feel depleted and they need something else. Maybe it's a friend who always seems to need support from you, but isn't really there when you need her. Maybe it's a coworker who gets praised for doing what feels like the bare minimum while you're carrying a lot of responsibility without the recognition. Or maybe it's someone you follow on social media and you see her taking another trip or always having a good time, you know? And you notice this feeling rising up inside you, annoyance. That must be nice. Judgment, jealousy, resentment. And at first you think, why am I feeling like this? In any of those situations, I want to share most likely the resentment isn't about that person that you're feeling the resentment towards. What I believe resentment is here to do and is here for us is it's showing us something about ourselves. Maybe it's showing us that we are craving more adventure. Maybe it's showing us that we're exhausted and just need some rest. Maybe it's showing us that we've spent so much time taking care of everyone else and everything that we've stopped creating experiences that light us up. Maybe it's showing us that we've been waiting for permission to prioritize ourselves. And this is why I think resentment can actually become our friend. Not because it feels good to feel resentment, not because we want to stay that way, but resentment gives us information. It points us toward the places where something is out of alignment inside of us. It's a need that hasn't been acknowledged, a boundary that hasn't been honored, a desire that's been pushed down, a truth that we've been avoiding. And maybe things come up. Someone does something and we say, oh, it's fine. I don't need you to do that. Or I don't need recognition. Or, oh, it's okay. No, it's fine. I got this. And when we do that over and over and over again, but it's not honest, that resentment builds and builds and builds. One of my favorite quotes comes from Pema Chodron, who says, nothing ever goes away until it has taught us what we need to know. I think that applies beautifully here when we're talking about resentment, because often resentment keeps showing up until we listen. I know from my own experience in life that that is true. Resentment maybe starts as a whisper, and if it doesn't get addressed, it gets louder and louder and louder, and it can get really loud, my friends. So let's talk about an example. Let's imagine a woman named Sally. Sally works full time. She takes care of the kids. She manages the family calendar. She makes sure everybody's appointments are scheduled and that they get to their appointments. She plans the meals. She does the grocery shopping. She makes sure the meals are healthy, that everybody likes them, that, you know, they're done when the kids have sports. She gets it done early and ready and does meal prepping. She remembers birthdays. She gets the birthday presents for everybody. She gets the Christmas present. She organizes all of those things. She keeps that household running. And from the outside, it looks like this great, mom and wife who just has it all taken care of. But guess what? Every day, she finds herself becoming a little more irritated with her husband and her kids. And she thinks, he doesn't help enough. He doesn't appreciate anything I do. He has no idea how much I'm caring. The kids just expect all of this to just happen. Nobody for a second thinks about how does this happen? And that resentment grows. She becomes short with her husband, with her kids. Maybe she withdraws. Maybe she keeps score. She notices every little thing that he doesn't do and that the kids don't do. And eventually that grows. And a couple things can happen here. It can explode, right? It can cause a fights. It can even lead to things like divorce and separation. When resentment doesn't get resolved, it grows and grows and grows. And there's a lot of things that happen when resentment grows unchecked. Another option is to start asking ourselves a different question. Instead of asking, what's wrong with all these people? Why don't they help me? And why do they expect all of this to just be done? We start asking ourselves, what is this feeling? Maybe we can't name it resentment. Maybe it just feels like irritation, frustration. I'm getting taken advantage of. Nobody appreciates me. Those are all different ways to say resentment. But if we ask for a second, what is it that I need to know here? What is this lesson? And I'm guessing in any of these scenarios, personally, I have experienced a different, some kind of version of all of these scenarios is the resentment isn't actually about any of the people or things in that situation or in those situations. It always came back to me. It's the fact that in those situations, I wasn't communicating how I was feeling. I was saying things were fine when they weren't. I was doing the things, but it was not authentic. And so then that feeling of resentment keeps growing. I have said yes when I really wanted to say no. I wanted to maybe think I can do it all. And so I'm going to prove I can do it all instead of asking for support or instead of making my needs known, instead of actually figuring out what my needs are, even. The resentment isn't the problem. The resentment was pointing in my situation, and maybe you can relate to this, but that resentment is pointing towards the problem. The resentment's not the problem, it's pointing towards the problem. It's like this big neon arrow pointing, but most of the time we're not looking at where that arrow is going. We're just focused on that feeling and what's wrong with all these people. And maybe we would try to push it away. I shouldn't feel this way. If I was a good wife, if I was a good mom, if I was a good daughter, if I was a good whatever, I wouldn't feel this way. So I just need to be more grateful. And we get really judgy of ourselves and others. And so if you have experienced this, maybe you're experiencing it right now, here's what I would say. Ask yourself, what is this trying to show me? Because resentment, again, it is this whisper. It starts as a whisper, but it can alarm very loudly. Resentment is asking us to pay attention, but the longer we ignore it, the louder it becomes. The lesson doesn't disappear when we ignore it. Resentment gets louder until we finally have no choice but to listen. It creates distance in our relationships, distance from our peace, distance from ourselves. We become critical when we live in resentment, critical of others, critical of ourselves. We withdraw, we keep score, and then we blame. And often the people around us have no idea what's even happening because we've never addressed the actual issue in an honest way. But perhaps the greatest cost isn't what it does to our relationships outside of us, it's what it does to our relationship within ourselves. Every time resentment points towards a need, a boundary, a desire, or a truth, and we ignore it, we are ignoring ourselves and we move farther away from ourselves. It causes us to not trust ourselves. It causes us to disconnect from our desires and our wants and our needs. We silence our own inner knowing and our own wisdom. And we become so focused on managing everyone else's needs that we lose sight of our own. Sometimes we even forget that we have them. So, how do we let resentment become our friend? The first step is to pause and notice it. Not thinking, I shouldn't feel this way, not what's wrong with me, but just noticing it. Noticing it. I'm feeling resentful right now. I'm feeling irritated. I'm feeling annoyed. I'm feeling like I'm doing too much here. The second step is to get curious. Ask yourself, what is this here to teach me? This resentment is an arrow. This feeling is an arrow. What is this arrow pointing to? What's feeling unfair in my life? What need isn't being met? What am I waiting for that I haven't admitted to myself? What conversations am I avoiding? What truth am I avoiding? And then the third step is to look for the boundary. Resentment often points directly toward a boundary that is not being met and often not even have been expressed yet. So, some questions you can ask yourself is, where am I overgiving? Where am I saying yes when I mean no? Where am I overscheduling? Where am I expecting people to read my mind? Those questions are a great start to help you get more clear on what's actually happening. The fourth step is to look for ownership. Sometimes resentment reveals places where we've handed away our power. We can become martyrs. We can think, well, it's just the way my life is. I just have to do it or else it won't get done. And those types of things. The problem there is that is a disempowering thought. We are saying it is in somebody else's hands. They should be doing more. They should know this is how I feel. Can't they hear how irritated I am in my voice? They should just know. But that doesn't work. It doesn't work. So asking yourself, what responsibility belongs to me here? What kind of communication do I need to have? And what choices are actually available to me right now? When we're feeling this resentment, a lot of times we feel like we're stuck and we don't have a choice. But I promise you, in most situations, there is a choice. There is a choice. Then comes the action. Have the conversation. State your need. Ask for help. Speak your truth. Take one small step. Say it simply. A lot of times we say lots and lots of words because we want to make what we're going to say land softer, or we really want someone to understand where we're coming from. We want them to agree with the need we have or the boundary that we're setting. And the problem is a lot of times we say too many things and it gets confusing and it gets muddy, and the person doesn't even know exactly what we're saying. So we need to be clear and state exactly what you need with the fewest words possible. Now, we don't get to decide how somebody else responds when we make our needs known. We do get to decide how we show up, how we act in those situations. And when we state what we need and when we set a boundary, it is our responsibility to uphold that boundary and make sure that our needs are being met. Remember, the reason this is important is so that we can have healthy relationships with other people. That is the intention. The intention is to have healthy relationships with the others in our life and with ourselves. Knowing that when we don't do that, we distance ourselves from the people we love, from ourselves, and it creates this buildup that can feel so heavy. So remember, first, notice. Notice when you are feeling resentment. Name it. Then ask yourself, where is this resentment pointing? What is the problem? How can I state what I need and be honest so that I can show up the way I want to show up? What is this trying to teach me? All right. I would love to hear what you thought about this episode. If this has been something that's affected your life, resentment, I'm guessing that it has. I think it's a pretty normal emotion for us all to have. But I'd love for you to share what's worked for you. Maybe you try some of these ideas. I would love to hear how it goes for you. And if you're looking for some further support, I offer one-on-one coaching with people who are working through these very things. I will tell you, this is active work that I'm doing with clients one-on-one all the time. So if that feels like something that would be helpful in your life, set up a 2-session program that we dive into what's going on in your life right now with an assessment. And then the second session is a recommended plan moving forward with lots of tools and things that you can use right now to start helping you feel better and moving you towards living a life that you love. And with the option after that second session, if it feels right for both of us to continue working together, if that's something that you're looking for. So you can see in the show notes on how to do that. And again, I'd love to hear from you, and I look forward to talking to you next week. Thank you so much for listening to the Love Your Real Life podcast. I hope that today's episode was just what you needed. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're looking for more support, check out the show notes for how to connect. Remember, no matter what your story holds, You are worthy of living a life that you love. Talk to you soon.